Today on the Cameron Journal podcast, we are enjoying the company of Lyve Neutral. He is the podcast host of What the Fuck Is Your Problem, which is a very interesting podcast about everything and anything in life. He interviews all sorts of entrepreneurs, all this sort of thing. And he's got his own clothing line happening. Lots of things going on with this guy. He's definitely one to watch. We have a surprisingly deep conversation, a bit short, but that's okay because some of these interviews have been running so long lately. Anyway, good, solid conversation. Looking forward to getting your feedback on this one, and I'll be appearing on his podcast soon enough. So this is Lyve Neutral, and we're going to talk about just a little bit of everything today. So this is the Cameron Journal podcast. Let's go. This is the Cameron Journal podcast. It's a place where we talk about important things. It's a place where we bring a little slice of the news to you. It's a place where we do important things, have important conversations. It's also things that I like to talk about. My name is Cameron Cowan, and this is the Cameron Journal podcast. Today on the Cameron Journal podcast, we are extremely excited to have on another fellow podcaster in my whole line of interviewing people that I think I have interesting podcasts doing interesting things. This is Lyve Neutral. He does a podcast called What the Fuck Is Your Problem? And not the, it's duh with a D. And we're going, and it's much like what we do around here. He talks about all sorts of interesting things, just as we do here on the Cameron Journal podcast. And we're going to dive into what his show's about. So welcome to the Cameron Journal podcast. Introduce yourself.
Thank you. It's a pleasure, man. My name is Lyve Neutral. Like you said, I'm the host of WDFIYP, stands for What the Fuck Is Your Problem? I'm a simple man, a basketball lover, avid reader, outdoors type of person, father of two, and just a young man that enjoys networking and connecting with some dope people that have dope souls.
Yeah. So what got you to jump into the podcasting space?
Well, it started with I was working in the corporate field, and a couple coworkers got on my nerves, and I snapped, and I asked two of my coworkers and my manager at the time, and what the fuck is your problem? And I wound up getting fired. I went into real estate, and one day I was working in real estate, and my broker got on my nerves, and I asked him the same question. And needless to say, I had to switch brokers. And then one day I said, so I started a new career in corporate again. And this time I was about to ask a whole group of people the same question, and I caught myself. And I said, you know what? It's been a pattern. Every time I say that, it's time to change careers. So let me stop saying that and let me flip it. And so I came up with the podcast, and I said, you know what? I'm going to ask people this, but it don't always have to be when they get on my nerves or I'm angry. It could just be in the sense of either or. It could be in the sense of in a positive way, meaning like, what the fuck is your problem as far as what's going on in the world or what's going on in your life, or in an aggressive way of, what the hell is wrong with you? So that's how the podcast was birthed.
No. Well, doing a podcast is certainly better.
Yeah.
Than getting fired all the time. It's better for your pocketbook and life stability and all that type of thing. So I'd say you've channeled that in a good direction. So, who have you had on? Who do you usually have on? And what kind of conversations are going on over there?
Well, it starts with entrepreneurs. I normally have on. I mix it up between entrepreneurs and non-entrepreneurs, and I call it, when I categorize it, it's entrepreneurs or it's just politicking. Anyone who I interview who doesn't have a business, I just call it just politicking, and we have a regular human conversation about what's going on with them in their life and what the hell is their problem. No matter if they're an entrepreneur or not, I always pose that question, and then we talk about it, we laugh about it. So the podcast is open to everyone in all walks of life, because we all have a problem. That's a question that I can ask you that question today. You can give me an answer. And then tomorrow, if I ask you the same question, you might have a different answer because it depends on what's going on and, what the hell is your problem, during that day and that moment in time. So it's not off limits to no one.
No, that definitely makes sense. Who's like someone really interesting that you've had on?
I had my ex-wife on.
Oh my.
Yeah. We wanted to kind of like hash it out a little bit, I said, if you want to get something off your chest, let's just do it on the podcast. So that was one interesting guest. And I had my 11-year-old son as a guest. So imagine asking an 11-year-old, what the fuck is your problem?
Yeah.
So, but I didn't swear. He knows what it stands for. At his age, only problem he really got is just going to school every day.
Yeah. Well, school's a hard knock life.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. That's a difficult thing. Yeah, no, having your ex-wife on that is brutal. That is setting yourself up for a very long recording.
I love it though.
Yes. I don't know I'd be that brave. So I'm not that brave. I like talking to, other people who I have not been involved with. And so you're very brave for that. You're very brave, because I don't think I would ever do that. Very truly, I don't think I'd ever do that. So that's fascinating. When it comes to things that are going on in the world today, what prevents you from standing on the top of the nearest tall building and just shouting this at the entire country? Because in case you've noticed, things have gotten a little weird around here.
Yeah. To be honest with you, is nothing has stopped me, just not yet. It's just not time yet, to be honest. It's just not time yet. I plan to, do something similar extremely soon. I just gotta, get some paperwork done to protect myself first.
Yes, because I've been having I have a friend of mine who owns a really great candle brand, Sunsum Intentional Living, and we have all sorts of interesting conversations. And today I had to go to the driver's license office. The state of Washington was mad that my residential address was not listed on my license. It was a whole thing. I was stuck in driver's license hell and purgatory for an hour and a half. And at the end, I had to get a new license. So there's nothing wrong with it. They just, wanted to have this official address on there. And I'm kind of like, what sort of Soviet bullshit is this? And and I was walking out of there, and the guy was asking me kind of like, oh, are you upset that we got it resolved? And I'm kind of like, yes, because this is a waste of time. This is bureaucratic stupidity at its most, all this type of thing. I walked out of the building, all this type of thing. And I was texting, I'm just kind of like, I just can't with like government today, right now, possibly ever again. I'm like, throw the whole state away, the whole country, really, all this sort of thing. And so we're always having these sort of conversations of just kind of like, oh my God, these things are going on. And it's like, we're tired, we're wired, we're wore out, we're burnt out.
Yeah.
And so that's I'm just kind of like, if I were you and had this philosophy, I would be on top of the tallest building doing that on an almost daily basis. And if you're available, I can point you to the driver's license office. We can start there. Right. And then we can go visit Jeff Bezos's house. We might stop by Bill Gates. And then we just can stand on top of the Space Needle for the rest of the city and just, grab like Facebook and Google in there too.
Right. Right.
So yeah, if I were you with that philosophy, I would be just shouting daily. I don't know how you're not.
Yeah, I am just not loud enough for those people to hear me. Right now, I'm working with a lawyer to take care of the trademark and the copyright and all that stuff. Once that's all done, then I'm gonna start screaming at the top of my lungs to that list, and I'm gonna add a few more people onto that list as well.
Yeah, it's just we kind of live in difficult and interesting times, and at what point do you get exasperated with it all?
I'm gonna be honest with you, Cam. I don't.
Well, you're a better man than I am.
No, you know what? I have a lane, right? And I don't own a television, right? And you could be surprised how many women walk in my apartment and then walk right back out. Cause like, there's no TV. No. Okay, you want to leave? Leave. You ain't come here to watch TV. So because I have a lane, I don't I make it my business to turn my brain on to what's going on out in the world and then turn it right back off and go back into my lane. And sometimes I turn it on just to get caught up. And then sometimes I might leave my brain off or my awareness level to what's going on out in the world off for months at a time and just stay in the lane that I'm in, because some things that, I have no control of. So there's nothing I can do about. I'm not the type to rally a group of people and try to make a change or a difference. So if I'm not going to do anything about some of the bullshit that's going on, I try not to concern myself with it, because it'll get me vexed. It'll get me mad. It'll get me all worked up for no reason. And then I just got worked up for no reason. High blood pressure for something that I can't control. So I stay in my lane.
Yeah, no, I think that's fascinating, because one of the things I have been struggling with is kind of how do people survive and thrive in our present conditions without starting to go crazy? And I've reached a point in my life where I'm kind of in a unique position, because I am biracial and I grew up very culturally white in the suburbs. I did not have a black friend until I was in college.
Oh, wow.
All this type of thing. Yes, because I grew up in Colorado. There are no black people in Colorado. It was like me and like three other ones. Like, we were the whole town. It wasn't that bad, but it's only 4%. Like, you'll be pressed. It's like Mayor Webb, a couple other people, and like me, and like that was it. And so it was kind of this very difficult thing. And as I have learned more, and Mike, I am writing a book right now that is,
nice.
Downton Abbey set in the antebellum South, and it's stuck in grad school hell and all this type of thing. And it's a bit different. It will be very different from the other 3 books that I've written, all this sort of thing. But I also do the news, and I do politics, and I do commentary, I do the weekly news show, and all this sort of thing. And when you look at all of these things, and I have all these conversations, and we talk about, the history and the Black experience in America, and I tell people, well, that's the way because of this way, and this politician did this so many years ago and many decades later, and the Supreme Court decision, all this type of thing, I'm starting to reach that point of exasperation. And I'm at the stage of my life where I don't understand how people don't go crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's sometimes I think people are going crazy, to be honest with you. I think there's millions of us that's going crazy, but it's just that, sometimes you just powerless, you know what I mean? So when you're powerless, what can you do? You know what I mean? So we all find that vice that keeps us from going insane. Like me, like one of the things that keeps me from going crazy is literally basketball. You know what I mean? I'll grab a basketball, go to the court, and that's like, it's just like my stress reliever. You know what I mean? So we all got that thing that we turn to that stop us from going crazy.
Yeah, I've never had that.
I'm sure you got it. You probably you have to have it because you're not crazy.
No, I think part of I have a couple of advantages. One, the first one was I'm a terrible workaholic. I read 150 news sites a day. I do a Substack that is all business and political trends, and I do at least 2 podcasts a week. There's usually there's usually an interview on Monday and the weekly news podcast on Saturday.
Okay, so there you go. That's why you're not crazy, because of work. But
here's the problem: is I'm on the front line of the insanity.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm extra conscious of the things that are going on, and I don't necessarily have like that other thing that's not that to do.
Okay.
And hence why I think like it's one of those things where I think that's kind of where the frustration goes. So I mean, like I think it's very interesting that like you know, basketball is kind of perfect for that because it's simple to play. You can do it anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's physical and mental at the same time.
Yeah.
And there's so much going on with it, you know, you kind of can just let the rest of the world melt away.
I mean, what about an instrument? You could pick up an instrument.
Oh, no. I'm a classically trained flautist, played professionally for 5 years. That is also stressful. Yeah, before I started doing this, I had a whole music career. I used to teach youth orchestra. I was in musical theater, all this sort of thing. I've spent most of my life in the performing arts.
Nice.
Like this is the longest I've gone without like being on a stage in a show, producing a theater, all this sort of thing. So yeah, it's crazy. My crazy life. I mean, I rarely really talk about that, but my crazy life. But yeah, I've never had that thing. So I'm glad that you have. Yeah, I'm glad that you have something like that because I think it becomes this important coping mechanism.
Absolutely.
And I think those are important.
Yeah, and sometimes I can't always make it to the court, so I pick up a joystick. You know.
Yeah. Well, you know, Xbox, PS4. Which do you play on?
I'm Nintendo Switch.
Nice.
Yeah.
Those are the neatest little devices. I was trying to get one last summer, and of course you couldn't get one the world over. They were not to be found, but they were. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I also do a little bit of gaming, PS4 and some PC gaming, but I play Star Trek Online, and then I like designing cities. I like designing things. So
nice.
City skylines. Yeah, it's a very weird, very, very weird sort of thing. Very weird sort of thing. To circle back to your story though, after those incidences where you know, would kind of confront people and ask them what their problem was, and then kind of had to deal with the fallout of that, how did you handle the fallout from reaching that level of frustration where that happened, and then they were kind of like, out you go? How did you handle that afterwards?
Well, I was kind of prepared for it. It was building up, and I had enough sense to have an exit strategy. But at the same time, I was also hoping that, you know, they would see that it was, you know, frustration, and wouldn't let me go. But, you know, I had a backup plan. I've never really, I've only worked 2 jobs in my life. One I got fired from and the one I'm at now. Other than that, I've always been an entrepreneur of some sort, whether it's life insurance, real estate, network marketing, or owning my own temp agency for many years. So I've always had, you know, a nest egg, and I've always had a backup plan. So when those incidents happened, as far as the real estate, I wasn't really in love with real estate anyway. My goal was set on becoming a flight attendant, due to my fear of commitment. You know what I mean? Believe it or not, when you're a flight attendant, it's you have a fear of commitment in some point, some way. So I had backup plans.
No, I think that's important. I think, you know, I was on a Erica Badu live one time, and somebody asked what would be your advice to young artists, and her answer was fascinating. And she said, have multiple streams of income.
Yeah.
And having been a freelancer and worked for myself most of my life, I nodded my head and been like, Mama Badu was right. Like, I'm gonna
definitely
so wise. Like, yes, it was the perfect answer. Like,
definitely.
Yeah, that is definitely a good idea. I mean, that's definitely a good strategy, and having a backup plan is always a positive idea. Weirdly enough, I wanted to ask you. You recently did an episode. I was listening to some of the show to prepare for this, which is good because I accidentally interviewed Mark Cuban's brother yesterday, and I didn't know until we were in the middle of the interview. But
wow.
I did research on, and you recently posted a podcast. It was like 10 things about yourself, to kind of get people to know who you are. And I was wondering if you kind of think back through that and like pick one, like what's kind of one of those 10 things that we should really know about you?
I would say the number one thing that I discovered about myself that kind of bothers me the most, to be honest, was the fact that I'm codependent. I've noticed that when I track back and look back at my life and the multiple times where I was successful in life, to my standards of success, I've always was in a relationship. Times where I wasn't where I wanted to be, I was single. And everything I designed, the way I designed my life for the past year, I've been designing my life. I have this vision of what I want my life to be. And I decided to make 1,000,001 sacrifices to only make sure that my life is the way I envision. In the next 10 years, I want my life to be a certain way. So everything I do every single day of my life is only so my life can be that way in 10 years from now. And I realized that when I started putting this plan together, I realized how codependent I was, because when I'm in a relationship, I go hard. I got to make sure, my lady's taken care of mentally, physically, emotionally, and to a degree financially. I like women with money, so not 100% financially. I love women that make more money than me. Absolutely love it, so they can spoil themselves while I invest in me. But I realized that, I was codependent. In order for me to go as hard as I needed to go, I always had to have that woman as a backbone. I always had to have that woman as my partner. When I'm single and I don't have a partner, it's like I get content and I slack. And I'm facing the man in the mirror right now and learning how to not be codependent. So out of those 10 things, that would be the number one thing that really is detrimental to my success the most.
No, I think that's fascinating. That's a lot deeper than I was anticipating. Go you. It's not often that people kind of go that far. There's a lot to unpack there. How do you think that codependency manifests itself? I ask this because I absolutely cannot stand codependency in any form.
Yeah,
I'm autistic and an only child. I value my alone time. I like being away from people from time to time. I'm off in my own little world, so I can't even begin to go there. So I've always kind of fascinated how it manifests itself for you.
For one, I think I've learned to be in your own little world is the safest place in this era. But for me, I believe it manifests. I think it was through childhood, the lack of love and attention that I got from my mother. So every relationship, I always looked for a woman that was the type of woman that never wanted to leave my side. Like I've searched for clingy women, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I never got that from my mother. It was like me and my mother was on two different paths in life. She was spitting out children, and I was searching for, you know, more attention and more love, and I wasn't getting it. So I think that's where it originated from. And then, you know, as time go on and I got older, you know, in high school, if you're not the most popular, you know, you're gonna get a little bit of attention, but you're not gonna get it all. And I think that played a role in it as well.
Well, yes, it can be easy, you know, to get lost in a big family like that. You know, I've listened to my mother and her sister fight all my life, and they're both convinced the other one is the favorite. You know, it was worse when their mother was alive. Grandma would always, it was so stupid. You talk to Aunt Nine, it would be, well, your mother's her favorite, and it's always been that way. My mom maintains Aunt Nine has been grandma's favorite forever. That's the way it's always been. That's the way it will always be. Oh, there's everything. They both accuse each other of the same things that they themselves are accusing each other themselves of. Like, it's so stupid. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
And watching them go back and forth and all that type of thing, it can be easy. You know, every party, I think, got most of what they needed, but they both still feel deprived.
Yeah.
So I can see how that would, you know, that would be the start. The start of it. And I think there's something, you know, very appealing about always sort of having someone around.
Yeah.
Because I imagine so, because people tend to do that. I'm the opposite. In fact, my last relationship, which ended really badly, I told her, I said, you're one of the only people I know that I can have around me 24/7 and it doesn't piss me off. Like,
she was special.
Yes, unfortunately, us together is Chernobyl levels of toxicity. Like, yes, she was special, and yes, we both had a lot of feelings and all this type of thing. But like her bipolar versus my autism is a disaster. It's a mental health disaster. And so, and I've gotten smart enough to understand that's horrifically toxic, and I'm not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I finally walked away from the, you know, there's only room for one crazy person in my relationship, and the position's already filled.
That's you.
That's me. So you either need to have no mental health issues or compatible mental health issues. like the demons in our brains have to play well together for us to be together. Because I've had the opposite, and that's its own unique brand of hell.
Yeah.
So I'm like the opposite. Like, I don't enjoy having people around me all the time like that. But I can see how for so many people that has a lot of appeal.
Yeah.
But I think, do you think, so when you are working so hard and whatnot, when you're single and all this sort of thing, what is it about just being by yourself that isn't a motivator for you?
You said isn't a motivator?
Yeah. Like, what about being only by yourself demotivates you from doing what you want to do?
There's a couple things. One, I can only get so much done. And you know, just the thing about being in business all my life is I realized that you know, no business in the world has got to the level of success, global, multi-millions, billions, without a team of people. You know, you can go back into the history books. It's always a team. When you talk about Google or Facebook or Apple or any business in the world, and it's always a team of people. You know what I mean? So you can start a business as a one person, but you're only gonna go but so far, unless you come across some money and you put a lot of money into digital marketing or marketing. You got a marketing agency that help you expand. You can only go but so far. And then depending on what that business is, there's multiple components to that business, and one man or one woman can't handle everything. So for me, I realized that, you know, that was one thing. Two is, you know, as a Leo, I got an extremely high sex drive. I need it 7 days a week. So being by myself just ain't gonna work. You know what I mean? And with my career, my career already makes, I'm already gone for days at a time, 3 to 4 days at a time as it is, and I'm not getting my fix. So it's just not, and plus I'm a Leo. A Leo, we travel in packs. We might roam a little bit by us. A lion might roam the jungle for a little bit by itself, but there's a pack somewhere waiting in the cut. You know what I mean? Whereas with me, there's not always a pack of other lions or other people waiting in the cut. I'm neutral, which is hence where the name came from, neutral. I'm always by myself, always alone. So that just doesn't work for me and where I'm trying to get to in life.
No, I mean that makes sense. That makes sense. I've always that makes a lot of sense, but I've always been of the philosophy that one must learn to be incredibly comfortable with oneself.
Yes.
In so much as, which is a very loquacious way of saying you have to like to be alone. And if you don't like being alone, I've always felt like that's a character flaw.
Yeah.
That's an area for improvement. Like, learn to be okay with your own company.
Yeah. And it's crazy, right? Because when the time that I love being alone is when I'm being creative. Like, for example, I'm not a person of second opinion. When I create, like, for example, I have the I have the WDFIYP, I have the podcast, right? And along with the podcast is the clothing line that goes with it. And I'm real close to getting this clothing line on Walmart.com. And I have I own a travel agency franchise, and I have a lot of things that I'm working on, and I'm a creator. That's what I do. I'm a thinker. When I'm creating, I need to be alone, because there's a quote that says, even if they see what you see, they'll never see what you see. We could be looking at the same thing, but see two totally different things, because everyone's perspective of life and what they see is different, right? So when I'm creating, I need to create in a way, because no one's going to take care of my business the way I take care of my business. No one's going to put the work in the way I'm going to put the work in. So when I'm creating, I need to be alone. And then when I make all my decisions, I stand by my decisions, and then I bring it to, now I don't want to be alone. Now I want to be around other people and get feedback of what I created. But during my creativity is the only time I want to be alone.
No, I think that makes sense. I think that makes sense. I mean, it seems like you are I think you're more popular than I am, so there you go. So yeah, it seems like you already got some good and interesting people around you. Like, I guess what do you think's the missing piece?
I think the missing piece is to be honest, it's either or. It could be a wife that is on the same path, like you mentioned earlier. They got to have the same, they got to be as crazy as I am. They got to want it as much as I do. A power couple is two hustlers, right? Not just a hustler and a leech, as Jay-Z would put it. So a wife that got to want it as much as I do, or just a group of friends that gotta want something similar, or be striving for the same type or level of success. And one of those two things, I think I can make it happen. But until then, I have to continue making it work, even though I'm neutral.
Yeah, no, I definitely see how that's an important sort of thing. That it's kind of when it comes to the socializing end of it, that's kind of one of the parts of my job I like. And I think that's why I do so many of these interviews. Even though I complain about how much time they take. Because I have to find you folks and book you and arrange times and schedule and all this sort of thing. It's very time consuming, but I keep on doing it. And so I think I like it because it gives me a chance to be social and talk to people.
Nice.
Which is ironically something I enjoy doing.
So here we go. If we go back to what we was talking about earlier, maybe this is your vice. Maybe this is your escape pod.
Yeah, perhaps, because I always, there's nothing, I am long time listeners and readers of mine will know I have a rather tortured relationship with what I do. I like writing, but I also hate so many things about it. However, there's not very many times where I love doing this. But when I have a really good conversation with somebody, either for like a written interview or a podcast, and the conversation was like deep and meaningful and interesting, and I was fully engaged the entire time, and the clock flew by and I wasn't even marking the time, those are the days I love my job. Yeah. They're rare. I get a couple a year, but those are the days I love what I do.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. So maybe it is an outlet from all, when I'm writing about doom and gloom and all this type of thing, I then also get to shift and have an interesting conversation with someone that has nothing to do with those things.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's an interesting thing. So yeah, there could be something to that. We'll have that there. We'll have that there. So speaking of the time though, I'm not going to keep you because I don't have a voice. I've done 4 podcasts and a 2-hour appearance this week. I don't have a voice. So I'm going to unfortunately end us early. So why don't you let us know where we can find you online and where people can listen to the podcast?
Well, you can find me on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook at WDFIYP. On almost any platform, Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube. Just type in WDFIYP. But if anyone out there who's going to support, let's start with YouTube. I would truly appreciate that.
That's all for this episode of the Cameron Journal podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Visit us online at CameronJournal.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And I love to talk to my followers and listeners, so please feel free to get us on social media at Cameron Cowan on Twitter. And we'll see you next time on the Cameron Journal podcast.